Eczema Outreach Support is a Scottish charity that aims to support children that live with a skin condition. The group expanded UK-wide in 2018 and they now hope to help children and families living with the condition here in Northern Ireland. I'm joined by Donna and Matthew Quigley to talk about the assistance and support that they have received. So Donna and Matthew, you're very welcome in the studio today. How did you sort of find out about Matthew's eczema condition? What was your understanding of it, and how did that diagnosis come about, and how did it impact your day-to-day life?
So when Matthew was just born, we'd noticed he obviously had really very dry skin and he was very agitated as a baby. It took till he was about 4 months before it was officially diagnosed as eczema, because he was admitted to hospital. At that point we got to see a consultant who then diagnosed it. It was tough from the beginning because he was so agitated with his skin. Sleep was very poor with him, but also the constant scratch and the flaring up of the skin. Where it would, like, even at one point when he was only a couple of months old, it was like his hands had all swollen up. So we tried various creams, and then when we got it diagnosed, along with his allergies, which can help flare it up, so he has a dairy, nut and egg allergy, then we knew what sort of diet to put him on to try and control it better as well. But it was a bit of a shock because he's our first, so obviously you're just a first time mum, but we had great support in that there's eczema within the family, so we had some understanding under it as well, and his consultant's very great as well. It
must have been quite challenging then as a first time parent for both you and your partner, you know, to have a child clearly in discomfort, not being able to communicate as well with them. How did that impact on your day-to-day life, just as a new mother also?
It was very difficult at first. Even when you went to like mother and toddler groups, you were obviously very conscious of any, especially with the allergy, but with skin, because he was so flared up, then you would maybe get some comments and the constant creaming regime, and you're just getting used to becoming a mum, but also getting used to what things triggered his skin, how to try and calm him and pacify him, but also because he was so young, it was so hard for him obviously to communicate as well. Obviously there's the internet, which you do a lot of research, but in some ways it can have a negative effect because you can see too much. But for us it was very much trying to work out what creams worked for him, trialing different things, but also being very open to what there is out there for sort of support and advice.
The Eczema Outreach Support, originally from Scotland, has branched to the UK and is now planning services here in Northern Ireland. They're still based in Scotland, so how does that relationship work with you and the organisation and gathering advice and support? And prior to that organisation, what support networks were available to you and your husband to try and better Matthew's condition?
So yeah, Eczema Outreach, so we first found out about them just over a year ago, and it was Matthew's consultant had been at like a dermatology conference and they had presented about their services, and straight away she'd emailed me and was like, I think this is something that could really support you as a family. So we registered online, which then they sent us out like sort of a welcome pack. You're then assigned a support worker, so I have a contact who will like text me, see how Matthew is, emails, and arrange calls whenever it's as often as I would like it to be, as often as we need it to be. But they then buddy you up with another family whose child is maybe of a similar severity, and then you're sort of given the contact details, and then it's left up to you and that other family to how much you want contact wise, which is great. They send out like there's different things from like books to read with Matthew, different times they'll send like different postcards or cards. They also do conventions, which we went to Scotland for, so we went over to Edinburgh in March. We took Matthew over to one where they have all the families together and they bring in a dermatologist. They do games with the kids, like a bit of understanding for them, but the big thing is also for them to meet other children and for other parents just to chat and get a bit of you're not on your own.
And how important is that as well for Matthew, being at such a young age, maybe thinking that he's sick or that there's something wrong with him, which clearly nothing is, but how important is it that he's seeing that face to face with his peers of children his own age?
For us it was really important, and I mean, you can imagine with eczema the biggest thing is the scratching, so as much as you say to somebody don't scratch, and that's the hardest thing because obviously that does the damage. So from simple things of where we've fidget toys for him, when you went to that there was a child with the same fidget toy of like trying to keep their hands busy. But it's good for them to get an understanding that they're not the only one that has, you know, can get heated and have that sort of feeling of their skin. But yeah, no, they're really good, and they're always there if you need them. And they've been like a really great support for us. They also then came over, so they got some funding, and they came across to Matthew's school and did a workshop, which was fantastic. So they flew over, came into Matthew's school, presented to not only this class, but then they did it throughout the school, and did a workshop which Matthew got involved in. But it gave the kids in the class an understanding of what it's like to have that feeling on your skin, what eczema is, but in like an interactive play format, as well as doing some work with the staff in the school. And they also provide parents like packs that you can then, you know, advice on how you can advise the school on what they can maybe do just for parents as well.
You know, for any parents out there who may be dealing with a similar issue or may feel isolated in dealing with eczema, because there maybe, you know, because there could be some problems in that it isn't really seen as a life-threatening condition. But for parents out there, or young people, or even adults, because it isn't exclusive for, you know, for infants and young people. But what advice would you like to share with them?
I would definitely say, like, you know, the support is there, especially from Eczema Outreach. So for anybody going through that, I would really advise that you look into it, and if it's for you, register. But we have found them a really good support. I mean, medically, we've had fantastic support from Matthew's medical team, but I suppose there's not necessarily a lot out there for just that sort of family support, because it has a huge impact on you as a family, just on things that you can do on the child, and particularly on their moods, and how, like, you know, that itch feeling is very frustrating, and their own confidence when things visibly aren't 100%. But yeah, I would definitely recommend looking into it and being open to what's available there, because as I say, every child's skin is different, so what works for one, what works for another will be different, but that they're not alone, and sometimes just having a call with somebody that is going through something similar can make all the difference of when at times you get frustrated that cream's not working, or something's been said to you and you're like, but yeah, no, I think for me, it's been a really good support. It would be fantastic if at some point there was enough numbers over here that Eczema Outreach could then do that sort of convention here, because it is really worthwhile, and it's worthwhile for the children. And just recently, as Matthew's getting older, then we've just about to start to write his own wee pen pal. So there's different things that they can work with you of what works, and they do provide really good advice and support on how to, you know, especially with school, different things, snacks, all various, they're not advising you about the creams, but just all those wee trigger areas, and or just sometimes that person on the other end of the phone just to have a wee chat to when you need it.
Donna, Matthew, it's been great having you in the studio. We wish you all the best going forward with the organisation and with Matthew's treatment, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, and thanks again for coming in.
Thank you.
Bye.
This month sees the charity Writing for the Disabled celebrate its 50th anniversary since being awarded charitable status. The organisation aims to enrich the lives of adults and children living with a disability through equestrian activities and through engagement with horses. Joining me in the studio today to talk about the upcoming anniversary are Juliet Fraser, NI chairperson for Writing for the Disabled, and alongside her we have Judith Watt and Belinda Miller. So ladies, you're all very welcome into the studio today, and Juliet, it's a milestone event happening on the 6th of October, 50th year anniversary. But before we get into those celebrations, can you just give me an overview of the RDA, when it first came about, and the kind of output you have within the community sort of across the UK?
Okay, RDA is a national charity. We're just one region of 18 across the UK. We now have 30 groups in Northern Ireland, all operating as independent charities. They might vary in size from a large RDA centre operating several days a week to a small group which operates out of a local riding school, maybe one morning a week during term time. Their participants would probably be drawn from a local school for children with special needs. The client base has changed massively over the 50 years. It started off being almost exclusively children with physical disabilities. These days we work with children and adults, and we see a lot of children from schools with autistic spectrum disorder, communication difficulties, social difficulties, problems with relating with their fellow human beings, and this is where the horse particularly comes into its own.
It's quite a sort of a unique approach to tackle social skills, you know, mental, physical sort of disabilities that not just young people but adults have. I mean, it seems like it was quite ahead of the time. I mean, how was this idea first sort of received by the public?
Up until quite recently, there was very little knowledge of what we did. And I think there was a perception, even amongst the sort of professional bodies who are associated with us in education and health, that we were a few ladies who lunch who thought it'd be nice to take children for pony rides. Well, we're actually so much more than that these days. We're a very professional therapeutic organisation who make a huge difference to people's lives at all levels, from the top end, the Sophie Christiansens who go on to compete and win Olympic gold medals, to the child in a local RDA centre who maybe speaks for the first time to their pony ever, and all things in between.
Yeah, sounds fantastic. And Belinda, I mean, what benefits or what changes do you see from a young person or adult who first comes in with the group and engages with the horse and the activities that are set out, and maybe what kind of misconceptions can people have over, particularly with those with a physical or mobility sort of impairment with a disability? You know, is there misconceptions there that, you know, an individual maybe with loss of movement in their legs is unable to ride a horse? I mean, just can you give me an overview maybe of misconceptions and just changes you see in the participants?
Sure. Well, misconceptions obviously are that somebody isn't physically or mentally able to ride a horse. But we cater for all types of disability, emotionally, physically. If somebody actually cannot get on a horse, we have a carriage driving group as well. So people who are even in wheelchairs can be helped in their wheelchair into a carriage and therefore be able to communicate with the horse that way. But most people we can get on a pony. Some groups have a hoist to lift them on. Every child will have at least one side walker, often two if necessary, or even more, to help them stay stable. There are different bits of equipment to help them hold on tight if their legs can't hold them on very well. From the benefits point of view, there are many, many benefits. Physically, we see children whose bodies are strengthened by the motion of a horse, having to try and sit up maybe straighter than normal, holding on. We have physiotherapists involved to advise us on that. Playing games, maybe passing a hoop from one hand to the other, different things like that. We see bodies strengthened. Children gain a lot of courage. Sometimes they arrive never been near a horse, maybe very, very scared. Sometimes they take weeks even to go near a horse. We encourage them maybe to pat a horse, to get, even we've seen children with just one finger at first, eventually getting on a horse. They maybe will brush a pony for us to get close to a horse. But there's a very rare situation where we can't get a child on a pony in the end. And so we see great confidence. We ourselves in our group had a child this year. Our children normally come about 8 weeks at a time for a year, every year. And this child had come for 3 years beforehand, had never got on a horse, was too scared. He tried, he just couldn't bring himself to make the movement onto the horse. We kept persevering, and this year suddenly for the first time, we turned around and Judith had got him on the horse. The whole class screamed and yelled with excitement. He yelled, everyone was so excited. And we've heard since his whole confidence has been boosted. He's mentally challenged. He now has confidence to try so many different things because he managed to get over a boundary he'd never been able to cross. He is confident in so many ways. He's happier. The whole school has been built together in one unit to cheer him on. His family were excited. We have parents come to watch at the end of their sessions, and he brought 5 members of his family, and they were so excited. That's another thing we love. The parents often have children our children are often very limited and maybe don't, on the face of it, achieve a lot. But for some of our children, a smile might be a good day, recognise themselves in a mirror. The parents come and watch and they see their children doing things they never thought possible.
I imagine a lot of these benefits as well aren't just confined to, you know, the 1 or 2 hours that you have them for that day, but I think the key goal here is longevity and the transferal of these skills and their application of social skills.
Confidence, strength, talking to the pony, maybe, as Julie said, means they'll talk to people a bit more maybe. And yes, absolutely, the schools tell us it makes such a difference to their whole lives. And
Judith, we'll come to you in a minute, but I just want to maybe set up that you are a charity, Juliet, and you are very dependent on volunteers. Can you give me an overview of the kind of staff and volunteers that make this good work possible, and what do you look for in a volunteer? Do you have to have previous experience with horses?
Well, we have about 750 volunteers across the province at the moment, working in 30 groups. Our volunteers come from all walks in life, not necessarily from a horsey background, although obviously it's helpful for the people who are actually going to be doing the coaching and maybe leading the horse that they've had some previous experience. The sidewalkers are a very important part of supporting our riders, and they can come from anywhere. We give them training to keep them safe around the horses and give them the knowledge they need to do the job. But we've had some wonderful volunteers who've done all sorts of wonderful things with our riders. Retired teachers make fantastic RDA volunteers, but all sorts of other professionals as well. We have retired occupational therapists, retired physiotherapists, and just anybody who feels they've got something to give to the organisation. And if you're able enough to walk around a riding school on a cold January morning, you probably would be an asset to our organisation. So don't feel just because you don't know about horses that you wouldn't make a good RDA volunteer, because that's simply not true.
Now, Judith, you've made an excellent RDA volunteer and coach. How did you first get involved with the organisation? And not only looking for good coaches as well, but I imagine that there's a sort of process behind finding suitable horses as well, and that are going to be friendly and engaging with the participants. So yeah, just how did you get involved? How do you look out for horses, and what would be your sort of typical day-to-day sort of involvement with the RDA?
I have a horse myself, and I'm a horsey person. I love working with children, so I came to the RDA group in East Antrim group. We work with Hillcroft School. They bring 2 groups of children every week. We work with the children on the ground before we put them on the horse. Some of the children have never been near a horse, or never mind on a horse. So getting them onto the horse can be a challenge. But we try and make it fun for them. But we have games, and they give them challenges. We teach them a little bit about the horse before they get on and how to get on. And once the child gets on and feels that animal, the animal can't talk back to them. So for a child with learning disabilities, it's non-judgmental. They can relax, and they don't have anybody, the animal doesn't talk back to them and give them orders. So these children respond to that. A horse takes 4 steps at a time, and a human uses 200 muscles within that 4-step movement. So, so that obviously that's going to help with a disabled rider who has less muscle tone. So that helps to build on that muscle.
On the 6th of October, Chien's Castle in Antrim, you're having a sort of big public event. Can you tell me more about that, how people can get involved, and do you have to be associated or be a member of the group to come along and sort of avail of the activities?
No, anybody can come along. It's open to everybody. It's a pleasure ride. Lord O'Neill has very kindly given us permission to use the grounds, the estate of Chien's Castle. It's a great opportunity for riders to come along and ride off-road, which is quite difficult nowadays because the roads are so busy, and so it's a wonderful opportunity to ride around the estate. And it'll take about an hour and a half. It's about 5k walk round the castle grounds, and we're hoping we'll have buns and coffee and tea, and we've a ballot. We've been very kindly donated some very nice prizes, so we're hoping to see it's for able-bodied riders, but anybody and everybody is welcome, and if you don't have a horse, come along and go for a nice walk around the grounds. And there's a big ball of sunshine in the sky for Sunday after this storm that's coming. But hopefully on Sunday the sun will shine and we'll all have a great day and raise lots of money for Riding for the Disabled for our group, and raise awareness and possibly maybe pick up some volunteers along the way, because we do really struggle some weeks to get enough volunteers to run our group. So it would be wonderful to see a good turnout on Sunday for a lovely day out with horses.
That sounds great. And Juliet as well, just it isn't just all about the event coming up on the 6th. I mean, you had a seminal sort of landmark moment with the opening of the first National Training Centre, which opened in Birmingham in the spring. I mean, how has that benefited the organisation and the amount of community output you can do sort of UK-wide, but on a more regional level? How can local people here in Northern Ireland avail of the services from that new centre in Birmingham?
Well, it's always going to benefit the regions closest to Lowlands, which is the name of the centre outside Birmingham. But having said all that, it's very close to Birmingham Airport. There will be lots of training opportunities available going forward there for our coaches and our volunteers, and anyone can go and avail of that. It's obviously easier to get there if you live within 50 miles, but you've got to put a training centre somewhere, and this is as central and with as good transport links as you can get. It will be wonderful going forward having a dedicated RDA training centre, because I think the ambition is to do more research into the benefits in parallel, which is obviously easier to do if you've got your own training centre rather than depending on other people's facilities. Certainly I would encourage anybody who's invited to go to any events there to go. It's very impressive. They've got lots of good people working there, and the facilities are wonderful, and I think they've done a fantastic job.
And what about the facilities here in Northern Ireland? Just off camera, you were saying that actually the demand now for the services is far outgrown what you can actually provide, and particularly in the northwest and in Derry as well. A lot are having to travel.
Wonderful if somebody wanted to set up an RDA group either in the greater Belfast area or in the Londonderry area, where there is very little of this type of thing available. Anybody who's running a local riding school or even a private yard and you think you might be able to do this, please don't hesitate to get in touch. My email address will be on the end of the programme, I think. And I'm very happy to come and talk to you and talk about what's necessary to do. Because we work with very vulnerable people, we have to be very careful. When we recruit our volunteers, obviously they have to go through police checks and have references, and all of that sort of paperwork is just what you'd expect an organisation like ours to have to complete. But having said all that, it's so worthwhile. And at our conference we will be presenting long service awards to people who've done 25, 30, 40, maybe even 50 years volunteering with RDA. So that just goes to show what a rewarding experience it can be. So please don't think that you can't get involved, because you can.
And just for anyone who does want to get involved or find out more information, where can they go to do so?
Well, probably me as the regional chairman should be the first port of call, and then if you're in a particular area and want to volunteer with a particular group, I will point you in the right direction. You will then work with that group who will attend to the paperwork and try to provide you with an opportunity.
Okay. Well, that sounds great. So Belinda, Juliet and Judith, wish you all the best with your event at Sheen's Castle on the 6th of October and moving forward as well with the organisation, and congratulations on celebrating your 50th year.
Thank you very much.
Now,